Oh, we got a little bit more to talk about with regard to fruit. And so we went through this stuff, simple, aggregate, multiple, accessory. So make sure you understand those definitions, okay? And then tomorrow in lab, you'll work with a lot of different fruits and dissect them. And can taste them. So, but just wash your hands, keep everything really clean. All right. So, all right, I think we left off here. So simple from a single ovary aggregate off flower with a many ovaries in off flower. Multiple is many ovaries, many flowers. So that's an inflorescence. And then accessory means that they accessorize with other flower parts to make up the fruit. So the next slide gets into that a little bit. So the classic example is the receptacle right below the ovary. That part of the flower can become actually a major part of some fruits. Strawberry, basically when you eat a strawberry, you're mostly eating the receptacle tissue that's morphed into that sweet, juicy red strawberry. Apples, I'll show you an example of that too. Mostly you're eating receptacle tissue when you eat an apple. And then if you've ever wandered around here, we have plenty of wintergreen in the woods. When they do form their fruit, some of that is calyx tissue. So going back to this, so the apple, really most of the fleshy part, that's actually receptacle tissue, which is right there next to the ovary. And you can see the, like the bottom part of the apple is actually that brown stuff that you see. That's the remnants of the stamens and the styles.
Question for the pineapple.
Yeah.
The little leaf things that like die off or they're like, you know what I'm talking about? Are those like dead flowers?
No, that's leaf tissue.
Not that part, like the part on the actual pineapple. Yes, yeah, those.
Yeah, so this is all coming from the, pollinated flower. It's an inflorescence. It's many flowers. It's many flowers that all get pollinated, and then they morph into that delicious fruit. By the way, if you cut off this top part, you can plant that into some soil. Just put it into a pot of soil and water it and take care of it, and it'll grow a pineapple plant for you. I mean, straight from the store. It's easy to do. They don't want you to grow them. Well, but yeah, I've grown many a pineapple by doing that. And then I usually have to donate it to the greenhouse because they can get quite big. And my house isn't that big. And then, but it's fun to then what you can do is take an apple, actually cut it after the pineapple plant has grown for a year or two, cut up fruit, put it into the pot, and then cover the whole thing with a clear plastic bag. And the ethylene gas released by the apple converts it gets into flour and fruit. I mean, yeah, flour and fruit. And so but the biggest pineapple I was able to grow was like this big. It was it was sweet though. Yeah.
Super sweet.
Yeah, it was delicious.
How long did it take?
So I let it, I don't know like when you could actually do that. I let it grow for like 2 or 3 years. I'd have to look up, maybe there was a shorter time period, but I kind of forgot about it. And then I'm like, oh yeah. So tomorrow in lab, you'll work through kind of like a dichotomous key. And I'm not asking, for the lab exam and the lecture exam, you don't have to like memorize this. I want you to know the slide that we just covered with whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. So know like these terms, but knowing all the different fruit, I mean, that's what a dichotomous key is for. So you don't have to memorize all of this. But you can see there's quite the different criteria that they're using to be able to, figure out what's going on. What kind of fruit is it? And so usually when you say the word fruit, you think about something like this, and certainly, yep, those are all fruits. And these are all fruits. And again, I'm not asking you, I'm not gonna say give me an example of what's a drupe. I'm not gonna say that. I'm just getting some things here for you to look at, just in case you're curious. So you'll get some of these in lab tomorrow, and the handout will ask you to dissect them and look for the seeds and kind of try to figure out what kind of fruit you have. But this is a fruit too. Tomatoes a fruit. It came from a pollinated flower. And so that's really your definition. You're thinking about what develops from a pollinated flower, then it's a fruit. Even though you've been told your whole life this is a vegetable. So it's a little weird. But again, if I say fruit, this is kind of a common thing to think about. But then so are these. And that's usually what they say, hey, eat your vegetables, especially with the idea of cucumber or squashes. Often that's referred to as a vegetable, maybe not the cantaloupe and watermelon. But yeah, so this is a mix of kind of different ideas here where people say, oh, it's a vegetable, but it's like, no, these are all fruits. So, and these are all fruits. So those came from a flower that got pollinated and then had to go through a lot of growth and differentiation to become the fruit. Aggregate fruits, usually refer to the little tiny bits of the raspberry as fruitlets, which you don't need to know, but so those are a flower, but many ovaries, so aggregate. And then multiple, many ovaries from many flowers. So that's what the pineapple flower looks like. And so all of those have to get pollinated to give you that lovely pineapple at the end. So this is a big industry out in Hawaii. When my friend went out there, they have big plantations out there. It's really, oh, I bet. I bet. Yeah. I guess they just like sell them at roadside stands and I can't imagine. It must be delicious. Okay, so dry fruits. So this is often people don't think about this, but there are a whole bunch of different dry fruits out there. And we tend to look at them and say, well, are they dehiscent or indehiscent? Dehiscent means that once everything's good to go, everything's mature, the pericarp tissue will break open, freeing the seeds. So legumes or legumes, depending on who's talking, are an excellent example of that. Indehiscent means that the seeds stay in the fruit tissue, the pericarp tissue, and need to get like mechanically opened. Either by something coming along and eating it or whatever, but dandelions are an excellent example of that. So when you, as a kid, or I hope you still do it as an adult, when you blow on the dandelion and get the parachutes to fly, at the very base of the parachute, that's your dry fruit. And the dandelion fruit.
Would all nuts be in medicine?
Yes, I believe so. I believe so. I'm not 100%, but that would be my guess that nuts would fall into the indehiscent. I can't think of an exception right now anyways. Yes. Beans, peas, yep. Even peanuts in a shell. Huh?
They're technically not a nut.
They are a legume. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's people say nut and it's not technically necessarily a nut. So Fabaceae, the Fabaceae family is where you see the legumes. So they split open at maturity. So yeah. So technically a dry fruit, even though No one really thinks that. And I just think the peanut plant is amazing. I should grow some in the greenhouse because so bizarre. I think I might have told you about this already, where they have the flowers above the ground, and once those get pollinated, they grow down and sink into the ground and develop. It's just so bizarre.
Do they spread, are they supposed to be spread by animals? Because it's like, how are
I know they're buried.
those around?
I know they're buried. So there must be, yeah, squirrels, chipmunks. I'm guessing they can smell it once it's mature. Yeah, they must not get too tall. I would say at least like knee high. Yeah.
Do you think ants carry it down in their little like place and then like they've been eating for a long period and they're like, oh, there's peanut.
Yeah. Well, ants are pretty strong, right? Yeah.
What's famous for like a lot of animals is how ants like process their food, they tear it into little bits.
Shredding it. Yeah.
Like, because
Getting-
we can carry.
Yeah,
No,
that's
they
a
don't
lot of
chew it.
food. I don't know if they can chew through the,
I guess it depends on the kind of ant, like a carpenter ant can do that, no problem.
why didn't more fruits, why didn't more of this happen? And they hypothesize this is a way to protect the fruit from over foraging.
Maybe most of these names where it's like, they're just too tall, they want their fruits.
Yeah, maybe. It's really interesting. So basically, when you eat one of these dry fruits, you're really, most of what you're eating is cotyledon tissue, big fat cotyledon. And the baby sporophyte can then too, but really big cotyledons that are going to nourish. Yeah, definitely. And so the shell is really like the pericarp. And so again, I'm not going to ask you what a schizocarp is. I'm just, if you've ever heard these terms, I'm just putting this in here. But that's a fruit. How often have you played with these as a kid, twirling those around? But that's really a fruit with a wing modification to help it stay airborne. So, you can work with these dichotomous keys and figure out some of the specialized terms they give. So, there's a lot of different fruits out there, including dry fruits. And so they have a lot of jargon to go with.
Like the clear wings, when I was a kid, I always wanted to eat those because they remind me of like the rice paper.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever try?
No. My mom saw me thinking about it one day. I was like,
Don't do that. It does look enticing, I have to say. So yeah, there's a lot of ways dry fruits are formed, different terms.
oh, that's neat.
Yeah. Yep. So look for these. And then corn is really fun to think about. So you have, this is an inflorescence. The female, has the stigma and style. Each one of the silks is really a stigma and style, and it comes all the way down to one of the flowers. So this is, after the flower is pollinated. But there's, to start, there's little flowers here, female flowers. And then pollen grains land on those silks and we'll have to get all the way down the silk to the flower and pollinate, and then the fruit forms. And so the cob part is the receptacle tissue. And then each kernel is really a dry fruit. So that's how you interpret that. And so you're really eating, corn is really fruit. And it's really fun to, when you're shucking the corn, you can look to see for empty spots. That means the pollen never made it there. It didn't get pollinated.
Is there still a bear going to be up there?
Usually, if you dissect it carefully enough, yeah, you would see that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to think that in here, there's flowers in there initially. So I didn't like shucking corn until I learned all this, and then I got way into it because it was a chore. My mom was like, "Go shuck corn," and I'm like, "Oh." you know, but then once I learned this, I'm like, oh, cool, let's see, you know, and
Then you're
so,
there all day.
yeah, I'm like, what's going on? And so again, strawberries, you know, the dry fruit is what people say the seeds. They say, oh, look at the strawberries, but those technically are dry fruits sitting on the receptacle tissue.
So they are dry seeds. Are meant dry fruit, sorry. Are they still seeds?
Yeah, inside, yep,
So
yep,
both fruit and seeds.
yeah, I mean, yep, it's just dry, it's a dry fruit, but the seed takes up most of that volume, for sure. The pericarp is what you're staring at, so the pericarp is thin, and then in that will be the seed coat, and then the seed inside the seed coat, yep. Sunflower seeds too, those are dry fruits, so that the term achene is given to like the strawberry dry fruit. So fun to think about. And I think we went through this with the hormone information, how they know that those achenes are releasing auxin hormone to get the receptacle tissue to fully form into that nice plump.
A name for just like the dry fruit. He's like,
Well, that's what people call it. Technically, in a botany class, we don't really say kernel. It'd be dry fruit. We would call it a dry fruit. But so many, you know, when you look and someone's looking at a non-botany person, they'd say, oh, look at the kernels on the corn on the cob. You know, you hear that term. Yeah, then, but it's technically a dry fruit. Yeah. So milkweed, another fun one to grow. Capsules. So lots of interesting diversity. And then, of course, the nuts. You'll hopefully have a coconut to break open.
And
I think we keep a hammer in the body lab somewhere.
so surprisingly effective way to crack a coconut is to drink it like a basketball.
Oh, try it. If we get a coconut, try it. It might make a mess though, because
All
the milk.
See people doing it, it like cracks first, and then you stop.
Yeah, try it. We usually have a big like machete knife and hammer that we've used in the past, so. So yeah, they're designed for floating though, because it's, you know, they're usually along the ocean. And so if those drop, they float. So it's really nice. And then all the grains that you eat, you know, rice, wheat, barley, those are technically dry fruits. You know, we call them grains. But in a botany world, we'd say caryopsis. But they're dry fruit. That's so. So you, again, this is another kind of breakdown. So this is kind of nice because it's doing it by, you know, some of the terms I want you to memorize. So the aggregate, multiple, simple, fleshy. Gives you some examples. And then, so this is mostly fleshy ideas. And then we get into dry fruits, dehiscent, indehiscent. So if you've ever wondered, like, what is it really? Give some nice examples. But again, you know, you're gonna have fun with this in lab tomorrow, but we're not asking you to get into the nitty gritty because that's what these keys are for. It's to help you work through this idea, okay? Couple of other terms though, with fruits, some bizarre things that can happen. Sometimes you get fruits that can form without any kind of pollination occurring, which just seems like that's going against the definition of what a fruit is. And when you dissect the fruit, there's no seeds either. And yet it managed to develop into a fruit. So you can do it artificially with the right concoction of hormones, but it can happen naturally. And so basically these are seedless fruits that you're familiar with. And so it can occur, but it's usually some dose of auxin at the form when that's flowering. You hit the flower with a little bit of auxin. You have to get the right concentration and it will shift into a parthenocarpic fruit. So bananas that we currently eat, oranges, although I grew up with oranges with plenty of seeds, but now they're pretty much seedless. I don't even know if you'll get grapes tomorrow because I can't find grapes that have seeds in them anymore for you to dissect. I mean, the point of the lab is to dissect for seeds, but what?
Gotta go find them.
I know, maybe some neighbors, if I could, because I know some people that grow grapes, but I can't, they're not growing now, you know, so. Anyways, so you probably won't get grapes, but you'll get some other, I'm trying to find, you know, fruits that actually have seeds, so. I still think it's kind of a shame watermelon has gone seedless. I mean, I have fond memories of spitting seeds. My siblings and I, like, who could spit the furthest, you know, it was a real competition. So, yeah,
Now they're all seasons and there is a seed, it's like one of those nasty.
yeah, little white, yeah, it's weird. Okay, and then this is another one, apomixis. So if you dissect that term, apomixis means without mixing. That's literally what that word means. So this is another weird thing. There's seeds that actually form, but it didn't happen because of pollination. So this is kind of an asexual process. And so it's going to be a clone of the plant that it's on. And so again, still rather mysterious. But if you take those seeds and, you know, germinate and grow them, they'll be an identical copy of the parent plant that produced it. Dandelions do this, they're famous for it. So dandelions are very versatile. They can produce apomictic seeds. They can also produce seeds through the normal way, through sexual reproduction with the pollen getting to the stigma and all of that. And so dandelions are great example of this idea. That's one of the reasons why they are so successful, is that they have multiple ways to easily spread and reproduce and spread. Blackberries do this too. And so a lot of plant scientists are really interested in this because they are like, well, if we figure out the perfect plant, the corn industry is really looking at this because growing corn is kind of a hassle. But if you find like the perfect corn plant and you could get it to form apomictic seeds, then you could have, you know, a reliable corn crop year after year after year. And so I put in the notes section of this particular slide, a short video from a professor at Cornell on how they work with corn and how they grow corn. If you're curious, I'm not going to ask you about it on the exam, but
Like we think
what?
studying.
Yeah, corn at Cornell. It's a big industry. So yeah. So she did a really nice job explaining, but I could see the attraction if they could grow get apomictic seeds from a lot of different crops, actually. And then, so, you know, beautiful picture of a dandelion, letting the dry fruits go on a little parachute. And then as I was finding pictures for this, I stumbled across this. And I'm glad I was alone when I stumbled across it.
You'll
Just
never
like-
do it. It will never happen.
Exactly.
You cannot.
Yes. So Miss Kim Toscano, whoever she is, it's like, is there a way to reply? And I refrained myself. I was like, are you kidding me? So, but yeah, she talks about using 2,4-D pesticides and yeah, she's like, destroy. These are evil.
I just never understand this thought process of like, you know, I dump all this poison all over your living space, so you'll have to kind of flat.
Yeah, it's a beautiful flower. It's fun to play with. I mean, who hasn't played with dandelions? You know?
No fun will happen.
So I was just, you know, and this was published in April. This was published, you know, right around Earth Day, you know, Earth Day. Really close. So I was like, I just don't understand it. Absolutely. The whole thing is edible. You can make teas out of the root. I eat or drink dandelion tea. My grandpa used to make dandelion wine, you know, so I mean,
Don't just straight eat it.
no, you have to like blanch it.
They call it ads. No,
Oh. Tried it once and that was it?
yeah,
Oh,
don't do that.
no.
Process them first.
Yes, yeah. Somewhere, I thought, somewhere in a slide, in my dandelion slide about, have it posted on how cool dandelions are, and in there it tells you how to work with the leaves, so they're more tasty. But blackberry is another example. And so they're studying this gamma grass for this apomixis idea, because that is distantly related to corn. So people that are in the corn industry or, corn scientists, they're looking at this idea. Like, could we somehow get a corn variety where we can grow it through apomictic seeds? So you might see that in the near future. Okay, so all these wonderful fruits that get formed. Now you got to think about advertising again, or a marketing campaign, because once your seeds are fully mature, you kind of want that seed dispersed, right? You don't want all your children living right there with you for the rest of your life. You want them off. Go live free and, prosper. So you want this dispersal idea. So again, you need to attract organisms that will do that. And I mean, certainly there's wind, and we'll talk about that. But let's think first about an organism, an animal, including humans. Fleshy fruit. It's a great idea. If you're trying to get an animal enticed, make it sweet, because evolutionarily speaking, we're hardwired to eat sweet. It means it's safe. It won't kill you. If you eat something bitter, that usually it's just hardwired into all animals. Bitter means poison. And so that's why they often wait to get super sweet before they want to make sure that their seeds are fully mature before they will do that. And so that's why, when you see the shifting colors of the fruit, that means the seeds aren't quite there yet. If it's not to its full vibrant color, that means don't, essentially it's the signal, don't eat yet, and then once it's bright, then it attracts the animal. So it's a good, nice transition for the plant to kind of camouflage it until everything's good to go, and then switch.
Off the vine, before it was like ripened on the vine, will the seeds finish development even not attached to the main source?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it really does depend. That's a really good question, because I've wondered that too when I pick fruits, in the garden. It's like, are they done yet? If I pick them slightly underripe, essentially. And I think it really does depend how far along, because they do need to be fed still from the mother plant, to keep making sure everything's good. And so I don't have an easy answer to that. So, but yeah, it's usually, and then if you think about colors, if you were the plant and you want to shift to a color to signal I'm ripe, take the fruit, and you're mostly green, you want to do something that can pop against green. And so that's why red is a good choice, right? Unless the animal's colorblind. Yeah.
But
So
unless you eat fruit, they can see.
yeah, normally they can. So it's an amazing adaptation. It's really, when you think about it from the plant's perspective, it's a really interesting how they, first they camouflage everything as everything's still maturing, and then they can really make it stand out. So fleshy fruits tend to be brightly colored when mature. And then you have all kinds of other options for some of the dry fruits in particular. So the lovely dandelion. So when you're looking at that dry fruit right there. So wind dispersal for dandelion, maple, again, wind dispersal, cottonwood. Orchid, the seeds are tiny, so they stay up in the wind. Tumbleweed, which we don't really have around here, but wind dispersal. So all of these are good for staying up in the wind current, so keep it pretty light in weight. Have appendages on them that make them stay up in the air current. And then these, if you look a little closer, it's like, oh, somehow they're designed to stick. And so if you have dogs and that get out into some of the fields around here, I I have to pick a lot of these off my horse, actually. She gets them from the hay that they get fed. That's always fun, have a long mane or tail. So
It's going out,
it's so stuck
Soft.
in there. Yeah, combing
you
it
have to
out.
like cut
Gotta
it
give
out.
them one.
No, you just have to tease the hair apart, stand there and yeah. So, I mean, if you look at the design of these, isn't that what Velcro was
Yeah.
designed after? So I think it was the cockleburr in particular. So if you look at it under the microscope, it really does look, very much like what Velcro looks like, so. And then this one's not very nice, but I've seen video where elephants step on that or giraffes, and sometimes they get that actually embedded in them, but it does tend to drop off, like they'll walk for a while and then it does, I've seen video where it will drop off very far away from the parent plant. So,
Seem nice.
not the nicest, but in here they have a person's sock all covered. I thought, because you look at it, it's amazing how well those adaptations allow to stick.
Yeah, that inspired Velcro.
Yeah, it did. And so I hope that person's really rich. I hope they got a patent on it, because I mean, look at how much we use Velcro. It's just such a common thing.
Person out there in summer with so many birds and socks and sand. What was the move?
Yeah. Yeah.
Summer, I let my dog outside. She comes back, she's covered in stickers.
Yep. Yep. It's a pain. It's a pain. And then I think I told you about this one, mistletoe. We were talking about parasitic plants and how they have interesting root structures that can plug into the branches of the tree. So this is after it's passed through the mistletoe bird. So they eat it as they're on the branch and they keep eating and perching, and then it comes out the other end, but it's so sticky on their butt that it doesn't drop off their butt. And so there's Sir David Attenborough has a video of it somewhere.
Yeah, I think you showed it to us.
Yeah, where it might be in one of the PowerPoints, but yeah, so then the bird rubs its butt against the branch and the
Horrible experience for him.
yeah, they're like, what is on me? And then it gets stuck on the branch. And then, the root comes out and plugs right in. So it's ingenious. This is all through coevolution and adaptation, but it's just amazing. So I think this link in the notes section is also active if you want to watch it. So, but yeah, it's lots of different strategies to think about when it comes to fruit, whether it's fleshy or dry. They have all kinds of options. I wouldn't want to step on that one.
Oh,
Boy,
Lord.
that looks nasty. So, oh, and then this one, this is bizarre, a rhodium. Let me see if I can get this one. Will that take me there? Oh, interesting.
I know there's one tree that has fruits where when they dry out, they can make it so the seeds can launch at like dangerous speeds.
Yeah, I have somewhere. Let's see. Oh, okay.
Go watch your phone.
Come on now. All right, let me see if I can get this, because this is bizarre. Where'd it go? Having issues here. I don't need volume for this one, but let me. All right, so check out this one. This is the erodium.
Yep.
So can you see it? So it's got the dried fruit there and then this long appendage and then this long curly thing. Let's look at that. So it's through wetting and drying action, I guess, that allows it. Is it going? Go, 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 go. Yeah, they sped it up here, so.
We'll see the bugs.
Yeah, look at all the bugs. So it's drilling. Can you see that? It's actually like drilling in through the design of the appendages. Yeah. I don't know what that's called, but it's quite the. And so it's partway into the ground. It's like, wait, nope, not quite. So it kind of undrills and re-drills several times in this video. It's almost like, oh, not quite right. I needed a little bit more this way, a little bit more that way. Oops, not quite. Very picky on placement. But yeah, amazing. Apparently then it was happy. So yeah. So drilling into the ground, very effective. Let me see if I can find that video on here with the. Let's see if this one works. Sometimes they make it so it won't work. Yeah, this video is not available anymore. Let's try this one. Why do they do that? They have it available and then take it off.
Okay.
Is it a copyright thing? All right, now I have to get my volume. What do I switch to volume? All right, so where'd it go?
Well, most people know that mistletoe is a great way to get a kiss at Christmas. Realize it's actually a parasite. There are about 90 species of mistletoe in Australia alone, and they all send out roots that penetrate the bark of trees and siphon off water and nutrients. The question is, how did they get up to these aerial gardens in the first place? The mistletoe bird. It specializes in popping open the parasite's ripe berries and swallowing the sticky contents. Thanks to the bird's modified digestive system, it only takes half an hour for the mistletoe seed to pass undamaged from beak to the bottom. That's when bird starts gardening. Simply by wiping its bottom.
Look how sticky it is.
Perfect position for the new aerial garden. The mistletoe's developing root quickly penetrates the branch at the coast and starts siphoning off all the nutrients it needs.
Pretty bizarre.
So if the seed passes through undamaged.
That's where it's supposed to, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think it does get some nutrition from the outer coating. There's enough there, but the seed itself doesn't get digested. So yeah, pretty bizarre. Ah, I'm talking. So So the mistletoe bird, and then I've already told you, the mistletoes are hemiparasites, so technically they could do photosynthesis if they wanted to. They just choose not to. So they're lazy plants. And then some people have talked to me, asked about bananas, and they're really not a tree. And I'm not going to ask you about this, but if you're curious, they're not a tree. They call it a pseudostem that have multiple leaves, and so banana plantations, it's really, they pop up every year. They have growth from the underground roots, and they'll pop up. And most of the bananas that we currently have in production that we eat are not what like your parents or grandparents grew up with. There's been a lot of diseases that have swept through over the centuries that have just wiped out banana plantations. And so, yeah, we have, I don't know if some of you might know Colin Banger, one of our grad students, and he gave me a banana plant. I think it's the Cavendish variety, which isn't sold anymore. We have it in the greenhouse. Oh, so it was the one before that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the one.
Which is Big Mike.
Big Mike,
Yeah,
that's the nickname for it.
yeah, because it grows seashell and it's.
Oh, that's what it means, Big Mike. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's the one that's growing in the greenhouse, but he just loves growing plants. And so,
I guess they're not like commercial.
pardon?
They're still out there, they're just not.
Yeah.
commercially viable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a virus that's swept through, so. And then this one is if Sir David Attenborough was getting into watching whoops, I'll go back to that. But let me see if I can get this YouTube. So I also have somewhere in maybe the readings and videos, some video on different seeds exploding and getting hurled.
Plants use a variety of different techniques to spread their seeds as far as possible from themselves. And one of the most remarkable is this one. It's called Ekbalion, and it's a relative of the cucumber. For several weeks now, pressure has been building up inside the pods until now they're as taut as a well-pumped-up bicycle tire. All they need is just a slight nudge. The further the plant puts far its seeds, the better. If a seedling germinates close to its parent, the two will have to compete for nutrients and light.
Isn't that cool? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
Like,
so. Yeah, so somewhere else, I think in the readings and videos section, I do have some other videos on seed dispersal that is quite dramatic, but even though it's not quite spring here, but I thought, well, I'm gonna be optimistic. And then it's true. Okay. So tomorrow in lab, you will do the fruit anatomy dissection and just have fun with that a little bit. Please do your student evals. Duncan will give you time tomorrow in lab. It'd be nice if you could do lecture and lab at the same time. I'd like to reserve most of Friday, when we meet on Friday, for exam review. Okay, so this is all I'm gonna say for what you have to learn, and then Friday is just review. Okay, and the exam is next Thursday. Next Thursday, May 1st at noon, May 1st at noon, okay? All right, we'll stop there.
Oh, I-
Oh, instead of opening it on Friday? Yeah, we can do that. Get a jump on it,
That's what I'm thinking.
get a jump on it. Yeah, I'll talk with Duncan. No more than a page,
Okay.
a couple paragraphs.
Thanks. I've been wanting to read that.
It's a good, yeah, it's a good summer read. It really makes you think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sections you had us read.
And it's a small book, you know, you can stuff it into your beach bag and go to the beach.
Yeah, I'll have to get it.
Yeah.
Noted.
So like, we'll be on there.
Alright, I found the tree I was talking about. They're called sandbox trees. And they make these little, they have fruits that look like a little tiny pumpkin. And when they're ready to disperse, they pop open and the seeds can launch like 30 feet away from the tree. So as you can imagine, they're going quite fast. Yeah. Yeah. And this, and like, see, they're big too. So-
Wonder if people have got it.
Yeah, they're colloquially called the dynamite tree. Because I imagine some people have gotten quite hurt by the.
Wouldn't that be a shock?
They're also just covered in spikes, so they're like a really intimidating tree.
So maybe it's a good visual to just
Yeah.
kind of stand.
It's like,
Oh my
don't touch-
gosh.
It's like, don't touch me.
Oh,
So it's
that,
like,
I've never seen that.
yeah, because it's like if you could even get up to the fruit.
Yeah,
Touch.
right.
But
Wow, what defenses.
yeah, it's like, what do they do? They are an African species, so like, I guess there's a lot
No.
of things there to eat them.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's nuts. It's again, it's palm-sized fruit. Or
I've heard of like, you know, like the Coulter pine cone that's so heavy, they call it the Widowmaker. I've heard of that, but
No,
this.
this one, yeah, they call it the dynamite tree because so
Oh.
the fruit fully dries out. They're ready. They're like spring loaded and ready
Oh
to
my
go.
gosh. That's amazing.
And it's like there's some reports of them going like even further, like almost 50 feet. And it's a
Oh.
long way to launch a seed that's like that big.
Yeah, but if that's in an area where it's like an open plain,
Yeah.
you could see where that would be hugely successful.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, if you could send that link to me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The extra credit.
Yeah.
if you're allowed. So for like the